superhero mission last week? Read the Bible and pray every day? Let's do a quick recap of our memory verse. Hebrews 11 verse 6. Without faith, no one can please God. Anyone who comes to God must believe that He is real and that He rewards those who truly want to find Him. Let's do this again. Hebrews 11 verse 6. Without faith, no one can please God. Anyone who comes to God must believe that He is real and that He rewards those who truly want to find Him.
I have a Bible that I read. I know the truth and I believe. I go to church with my friends. I have a joy that never ends. Not because of anything I've done. There's a reason, and it's the only one. I'm saved by grace through faith, oh yeah. I'm saved by grace through faith, oh yeah. And I'm saved by grace through faith, ooh yeah. I'm guilty, that is my plea. But the fine, it's been paid for me. All my sin is thrown into the sea. So up in heaven is where I'm gonna be. Not because of anything I've done. There's a reason, and it's the only one. I'm saved by grace. Saved by grace. Ooh yeah. Ooh, I'm saved through faith, oh yeah. I'm saved by grace through faith, ooh yeah. No matter what the world may say, Jesus is the one and only way. You can doubt it all day, but the truth will never change. If you believe and turn from what is wrong, then you can join us in our little song. I'm saved by grace through faith, oh yeah. Saved by grace, I'm saved through faith, oh yeah. I'm saved by grace through faith, yeah. I'm saved by grace through faith, faith in Jesus Christ. I'm saved, yeah. I've been forgiven 'cause Jesus paid the price. I'm saved by grace through faith, yeah, yeah. I'm saved by grace through faith. One more time now. I'm saved by grace.
Growing up, I never liked standing up in a crowd. It makes me so uncomfortable. I did not like it when everyone else was just looking at me. I just wanted to blend into the background, like a chameleon. I was so self-conscious that I would just agree with what everyone would say, even though I felt the opposite. I really do not like to disagree with people and just follow along with what everyone thought and was doing. This way, I get to stay in my own safety little corner. Sounds great, right? Until a hero in the Bible showed me what being brave was. I learned what it was to stand up to what I believe in, especially in God's things. The prophet Elijah stood up to the evil ruler, King Ahab. Yes, a king. Can you imagine? And he had no one else standing with him. he was all alone. Elijah was so brave that he did not let peer pressure keep him back from speaking out God's truth. Let's watch.
God's story, Elijah. So part of God's story is about a guy named Elijah, and it goes like this. Elijah's job was to talk to God and tell God's special family, the Israelites, what God said. So he was called a prophet. Unfortunately, the rulers of Israel were King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. They were the most wicked leaders Israel had ever had, and they didn't care what God had to say. They made Elijah's job really hard, but just wait until you see what God did for him. See, Ahab and Jezebel worshipped Baal instead of God. Baal was a false god, an idol. Kids, an idol is anything that gets the attention we should be giving God. Money, stuff, or even people can be idols. And when Ahab and Jezebel worshiped Baal, they turned a lot of God's family away from God too. But here's the thing, God wants all of our worship and love, and he totally deserves it. So God sent Elijah to tell Ahab and Jezebel that it wasn't going to rain for a while. There wouldn't even be dew. That means crops wouldn't grow. So the Israelites would run out of food. Then they would think Baal was angry, and they'd blame Ahab. When the king heard Elijah's message, he was furious. He wanted to kill Elijah. So God told Elijah to go hide in the wilderness. And just like he had said, there was no rain. In fact, for 3 more years, it was dry. But Ahab and Jezebel kept right on worshiping Baal and asking him for rain. Of course, that didn't work. So they stayed mad at Elijah too. They actually killed as many of God's prophets as they could find. But all that time, God kept Elijah safe. And Elijah kept telling people to believe in the real God. A few did, like a widow who saw God do miracles through Elijah. But most kept worshiping Baal with Ahab and Jezebel. Finally, in the 3rd year of drought, God told Elijah to go talk to Ahab again. This time, Elijah challenged the king to a contest that would show who was real, Baal or God. Ahab brought 450 prophets of Baal to meet Elijah at a place called Mount Carmel. They built an altar to worship Baal, and Elijah built an altar to worship God. They both prayed for fire and then waited to see whose God brought it first. And since Baal was a false god, you can probably guess who won. Yep, God. In fact, he sent so much fire, it burned up Elijah's altar and everything around it. After that, Elijah prayed for rain, and God sent it. It seems like maybe Ahab and Jezebel would follow God after that, right? But they only got more angry. Jezebel sent Elijah a message that she was going to kill him, so Elijah ran away again. This time because he was scared. Even though God had kept him safe for years, he wanted to quit being a prophet. He didn't think anybody listened to him anyway. He laid under a tree and said, "I've had enough, Lord." Then he went to sleep. God must have understood how Elijah felt, because guess what he did? First, he sent an angel to cook Elijah some bread. Then God let Elijah see him. Elijah had talked to God a lot, but he'd never seen him. While Elijah was waiting for God, he saw a windstorm, then an earthquake, then a fire pass him by. But God wasn't in any of those. Then he heard a gentle whisper. There was God. Elijah had spent his life obeying God, even though people wanted to kill him for it. But guess what? Ahab and Jezebel never could kill Elijah. Actually, Elijah didn't die, not even of old age. Instead, God sent a chariot of fire, and Elijah rode it right up to heaven. We don't know exactly how that happened, but it did. God didn't make Elijah's job easier, but he did take care of him. And in the end, Elijah got to be with his God, the real God, in heaven. And that's the story of Elijah. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Elijah was a prophet. Ahab and Jezebel worshipped idols. Elijah gave them messages from God. They got mad. God told Elijah to run away. Elijah proved God is real. Jezebel got mad. Elijah ran away. He wanted to quit. God was gentle with him. Ahab and Jezebel couldn't kill Elijah. God took Elijah to heaven in a chariot of fire. And that's part of God's story.
Our hero of faith this week is Elijah the Brave. Now, what made Elijah a hero of faith? Well, Elijah was a prophet who stood up to the evil ruler Ahab. And even though Elijah had times of trouble, God protected him and used him to lead the nation of Israel away from idol worship. That is exactly what a real hero of faith is. Someone who is brave to do good for God even when he was afraid himself. Here are some good lessons from Elijah's bravery. He did not start out brave. He was always running away. Fear was always there. He lived in a time when it was extremely unpopular to worship and obey God. King Ahab and wife Jezebel turned away from Yahweh, our God, and worshipped Baal, a stone and a false god. The people of Israel followed their leader's example and many started to worship Baal. They disobeyed commandment number 2 of the rules for life: no other gods. Elijah knew what was wrong and that God had hated and will punish sin. He confronted King Ahab and told him God's punishment. No dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. That took a lot of guts and bravery. King Ahab and Jezebel did not like what they heard and threatened to kill Elijah, and Elijah ran away. But God protected and watched over Elijah. And in this segment called Keeping It Real, we are going to share the story of real people, how they live their life by faith. Today we're going to be learning about Andy Vanderbilt, also known as Brother Andrew. He was born in 1928 in the Netherlands, a small country sandwiched between Belgium and Germany in Western Europe. Brother Andrew spent his life smuggling Bibles and God's love to all sorts of places where it's hard to follow Jesus. During those early years, many countries in Europe didn't allow anyone to own a Bible, and anyone who broke this law, who owns a Bible, is punishable by death, sent to jail, or forced labor. And their confiscated Bibles were tossed into the fire to be burnt. When Brother Andrew visited a small church in Czechoslovakia, he realized that they only had one Bible and everyone had to share it. Christians actually wrote out the scriptures in small tiny slips of paper so they could go back and memorize them. That was when he decided he would take Bibles into countries where it was not allowed. He risked his life to bring the Bible to God's people. Wow! Let's hear about it more from our Kidz reporter, Samantha.
In his first trip to Yugoslavia, Brother Andrew loaded his car with Bible, even though it was against the law to take more than one Bible into the country. There were guards at the border. As he drove up, his heart pounding with fear, he prayed very hard this now famous prayer: Lord, you made blind eyes see. Please make seeing eyes blind. The guards went through every single item in his car, and they didn't see many Bibles right in front of their eyes, and they allowed him to move on. God had stopped the guards from seeing the Bibles. What a miracle! This began to open doors ministry for Brother Andrew. Bibles were smuggled into Bulgaria, Romania, and Russia too, and then into Asia, Africa, and even the Middle East. Hundreds upon hundreds of Bibles were delivered to Christians who otherwise would never have the opportunity to read the Word of God. What an exciting adventure Brother Andrew had with Jesus, simply because he was faithful to God and brave.
Brave. What does it mean to be brave? There seems to be no formula or rules around it. Someone can't just say, "Be brave!" and we will suddenly be brave. It doesn't work like that, right? For both Elijah and brother Andrew, being brave was still feeling afraid and hearing the voice of fear, but saying, I will still go ahead to trust God because I know I am being faithful and obedient to God. Kids, did you know that when I was most afraid and fearful has also been the times God has been most real to me? When I was afraid, I chose to trust God and step out to do what I need to do. God has never failed me and has always been faithful all the way. When it comes to God, don't blend into the background, okay? But stand up for Him. He will always be there for you too. Now, what does our memory verse say? Do you still remember?
Do you still remember the memory verse? Let's revise. Hebrews 11 verse 6. Without, no one can please. Anyone who comes to God must that He is, and that He, those who truly want to, Him. Let's do this again. Hebrews 11 verse 6. Without, no one can please. Anyone who comes to God must that He is, and that He, those who truly want to, Him. Well done!
This week, Elijah the brave taught us how to be faithful even when we are fearful. Being brave is to do something good for God even when you are afraid. Are you ready for your mission today? Kids, your hero mission this week is to know that you are braver than you think. Make a list of all the brave things that you have done this coming week. You have 7 days to complete this mission. We will see if you have been faithful to complete your hero mission next week.
Our hero of faith this week is Elijah the Brave. Keep watching every week as we reveal all 12 of our heroes of faith. Remember that you can be one too! Hey kids, remember to register for Kidz Church Zoom Hangout every Saturday at 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. for kids 7 to 12 years old, and Zoom Playdate every Sunday at 4 p.m. for kids 6 and below. We have activity sheets for every age group on our website. Make sure to check them out. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and remember to follow us on GTPJ Kids on Instagram. See you next week. Bye!